the more engagement and visibility that that content piece gets on that massive page that we're leveraging for traffic, the more page visits we're going to get our clients, which is going to result in more followers. So there's a lot of moving pieces to it, but the most imperative thing that I always fall back to is like, if you don't understand content, this isn't going to be something that you can scale or really have an effective, cost-effective campaign with. It could get very expensive if you don't understand that. So content is really the main game for pretty much any channel or platform. So I always tell people, there's really no secret to hacking this. You have to go back to the basics, which is the foundation of what all these platforms have been created on, its content. So content speaks everything. If your content is good, your messaging is dialed in, you could still grow organically. It's not impossible. It's definitely a lot harder, but it's not impossible. We've had clients that have had significant growth by just, having a couple of posts on their page go viral. And, we have clients that, that haven't had massive organic growth, but they get massive and they get really good conversions on the growth campaign because their content's so dialed in. So really, if you're starting out in the game and you're kind of wondering where to start, you want to start with where your niche is, right? Like, what niche are you in and what industry is that going to be in? Because if you choose a niche in an industry that you don't have expertise in, or even a little passion with, it's not going to be fulfilling for you, and it's not really going to be something that you enjoy doing on a daily basis. The beautiful thing about social media is that it's allowed people, the average individual, to create content and potentially build a massive brand from it. So it's the first thing you should think of is what am I good at, or what am I not really that great at, but I'm very interested in that I can learn more of, right? And you want to go the route of what those two things are, because when it comes to building an online presence and creating content for some sort of niche industry, vertical, etc., you want to do something that you have expertise in, because at the end of the day, the value that you're providing is not in the quality of the edits, unless you're a video editor or post-production, expert. Mm-hmm. The value is in what you're giving, what is the information that people are receiving from your content, and that is value. It doesn't need to be a $20,000 to $60,000 camera. You can use your phone. I got $60,000 worth of camera equipment in here, and this freaking $1,200 phone shoots just as good. You don't need to make it really difficult. You just need to be resourceful, and you need to really provide the information that people are looking for, right? What are people's pain points? What are they struggling to figure out in your niche that you can solve, right? Because if you're an entrepreneur, you're a problem solver first. So if you can solve problems for people by giving them the information, then the amount of value and the credibility of your personal brand is so much more substantial than anybody else's. So value comes first. Well, content and value, right? So content and value go hand in hand, but always make sure that the content that you're providing is valuable, shareable, and viral. And if those things mean that you don't need a big camera, it's true. You don't need a big camera. You just need something to articulate, to give to people, so that way they can figure out, okay, this guy is giving out a bunch of free content. I'm going to continuously follow him because I trust him. You also nurture these people, and you start to build trust with your audience. And that's something that, helps when it comes to building a brand that you monetize, because, you also don't have to jump into social media just to monetize people. You should honestly jump into social media and add value for as long as you can before you start monetizing, because people always want to know, what's in it for me, right? People like you and I, Anatoliy, we think, how can we add value for somebody before we think about what's in it for us? Mm-hmm. But the majority of this platform is always thinking, what's in it for me? So you have to really think about what the what the average user, or what the users in your niche industry are really looking for. And that's where you need to basically use that as your kind of unique mechanism to articulate that value through content. And if you can figure out what your audience pain points are, what they struggle with, what they enjoy doing, what they love, then that's arguably the most important KPIs that you can really leverage to grow a substantial brand. Because the more value that you provide to people on this platform, or any platform overall, the more success you're going to have as an individual that is trying to establish themselves as an authority in their industry.
According to what you just said about value and the content, Do you still believe that, like, because first of all, yeah, taking the mobile phone and record the videos can really grab millions of views to compare you do the same with the camera and it will be thousands of views. I mean, it's really like random things, which is iPhone is, or like so good other Android phone. It's really good enough for recording videos for social media, I guess so, at least in the personal experience. But I was planning to ask you, do you still believe that only value would be enough in the content, or it's supposed to be effects which will hold the attention, and like views will be more deeper, that person will be just like looking more and more because of the nice graphic designs? So if you lack of budget, if you lack of the graphic design skills, but you have valuable thoughts, in your opinion, that would be enough, or better to add it extra touch to it?
Absolutely. You don't, it's and if you need a graphic designer, the thing is that people immediately dismiss the resources that they have access to today. Like 10 years ago, we didn't have any of the resources that we had today. Like it has substantially grown, and so many platforms, which are also free just join, have really kind of like entered the market and really done a good job at helping people create a cost-effective, budget for them to help with any outsourced work that they can't really fulfill on their own. But, when it comes to the edits, when it comes to graphic design and all that stuff, yeah, there can be, like if you have a pretty massive brand, obviously the more appealing and pretty your content is, that it is going to help kind of add some more fire, some more gasoline to the fire. But if you're just starting out, you don't need to have all of that stuff dialed in. Most of the big people that you see on any platform, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, none of those people started out with content that was high quality edits, insane post-production stuff. Most of them were creating content and using the native tools that the platforms give them, as a normal individual user. Like the tools that you can do to make IG Reels or TikToks or even Shorts today are basically like all integrated into their platforms, So like as far as edits go, edits like, I've noticed that the more native your content looks, the better it performs, right? Unless you have like a pretty substantial following, it's not going to like really add anything to your page, because at the end of the day, people are on these platforms not to like be bombarded by, just every single user that has pretty content. They're all looking for entertaining content. They're all looking for valuable content, and they're looking for stuff that just helps them maybe find a solution to an answer, or to a question that they have, or to a problem that they're having, So I think that it does help to a certain extent when you have a substantial following, but if you're just starting out, I don't think it adds anything in particular to the value of your brand, unless your job is a post-production editor, right? Like if you're an editor and you're trying to be like an influencer in the post-production space, obviously, yeah, you want to have insanely good, high-quality content, because the value that you're providing is the quality of your edits and your expertise as a post-production expert.